What's going on? SB here. I'll try not to talk too loud because I think the microphone's pretty close and the way I've got it all jankily set up, probably don't want to bump into it too much. Um, so I just wanted to jump on camera here. It's almost like a This Week in Fragrance, but because we talked a little bit about it last week, I don't want to make this a This Week in Fragrance. I'm just going to drop it and probably give it a cool title or something. So I want to tell you guys about my experience with Edge of Eden a little bit more. So man, this fragrance has been a journey to wear. Um, Man, such a journey. Can I raise this up a little bit? There we go. Cool. It's been such a journey to wear. Like it's triggered a giant like fragrance journey of wandering around and looking for stuff. But anyways, so I want to give you guys an update on Edge of Eden. The review is coming really soon, probably in about a week. So we'll aim for next week. And the reason why I wanted to wait is because I think there's um, a path of content that I want to do that Edge of Eden will be a great segue to. This fragrance has been really interesting of a wear. Again, I haven't quite landed on kind of the conclusion or resolution I want to have as far as how I feel about the fragrance. However, what I will say is that it has been so thought-provoking because it made me go down a rabbit trail of other scents. Now, essentially, this is a metallic fragrance. And I'm not going to get too much into detail, but there's a lot of other stuff going on in the back. But the meat and potatoes of what this is a kind of brisk metallic. And what's interesting is when I first tried it, I haven't smelled something like it of its quality in so long that I had to reacquaint myself with like just its category. You have a super versatile fragrance, but the thing I find everybody's running into is people don't really know how to understand it, because when you look at perfumery, right, we think of niche perfumery in terms of conceptually as more. You get more to the fragrance, you get more quality, you get generally more complexity, and you just get a deeper, richer experience. But excuse me. But what happens when you go niche minimalist? Okay, you take a really simple idea and you then enhance the ingredients and try to build complexity within simplicity. What do you get? And how can those fragrances move you just as much as your, Roja Herods and your Diaghilevs and your, your Guerlains and your Initios, your Creeds. I apologize for the cough. But I think that's a daunting task, is to try to build niche minimalism, even though I think it's extremely powerful and necessary in niche perfumery, because no matter what, you want perfume to be desired to be worn. That's where we get the mass appeal idea, is that no matter how complex, no matter how simple you go, you design a perfume that a lot of people want to wear. And what I'm finding is that either people encounter this perfume and it's so simple it almost smells like nothing to them and they disregard it, or you have kind of niche enthusiasts that kind of analyze it like a science project, probably sounds like one of my reviews, and it's interesting. Even those people don't go beyond the science breakdown of the fragrance. They smile and they say, yeah, it's really great, but you don't really get a sense that they actually believe what they're saying. It's just a hard fragrance to understand if you don't know kind of the lineage of this style. But once you do, it starts to really scratch your curiosity and like draw you in. And we talk about this all the time, even with designers like La Nuit de l'Homme, one of the best Netflix and chill scents ever. It's quietly loud. And I think this is that style of fragrance where it's quietly loud, but because we're dealing with kind of a metallic air, backbone of a fragrance, and that's essentially most of what it is, and most of what is built in the complexity has to do with its texture, its luxurious feel, and its accents. You have to change your frequency to really dial into the profoundness of this scent. And so what I've done is I've gone around acquiring all of the best metallic scents to have great reference points as to people who have already done this well, and then see where Edge of Eden aligns in terms of how good of a scent is this in the family of metallics that have done it very well, whether that's designer or luxury niche. Because I think this scent in the Day 3 catalog is one of the more, not controversial isn't the right word, one of the most daring, and in some ways it's like veering off from kind of what the line has represented so far. You know, starting out, it was about scent memories and a scent memory that produced a concept that led to, hey, I want to make something that smells like that, right? And so you think of their first like 8 releases were all based around a person, a story, a food, a place, whatever, right? But then as we start to get later into the Day 3 lineup, from the point of them doing collaborations, where we have Desert Rain, Royal Reflection, now the new announcement of Desert Fire and Edge of Eden, we start to see somewhat of a deviation where it kind of goes out of like their origin story and moves into artistic creations. They still attempt to tie it into some deep meaning of some sort. So for instance, with Desert Rain, it has a biblical background, but that wasn't the starting point. It started from a collab and 2 people's interests going in to express something, and then that being connected biblically and all that stuff into Royal Reflection has somewhat of the same thing, but really the origin of that scent profile was from Megan, who had that connection to that profile and then building a concept around that. Edge of Eden has a biblical concept, but it started from an artistic approach to this idea of the metal, and the magician background and all of that. So it seems like it has more of an artistic origin first, then a connection to something of meaning after. Anyways, they're more artistic to me, in terms of their starting point. And so they kind of start to deviate from the Dominican Republic, more familiar concepts, foods, places, people, vibes, and now starting to move more into kind of abstract concepts. But the metallic itself is a very familiar profile. If we think of like Invictus, one of the fragrances I immediately thought of was Chanel's Platinum Egoise. I think this is a close contender with a fragrance like that, because essentially that fragrance smells like nothing, but it smells like a whole lot of great nothing, right? Like it has a very airy metallic base where you essentially smell kind of like a crisp air, and then there's aromatic touches and facets to that air profile. Colonia Pura does that as well, but utilizes kind of like a citrus neroli, pillowy, cloud-like concept. This is more of thin, crisp, cold air kind of concept with the metallic. So I begin to compare these scents and then wear Edge of Eden and isolate myself and just think about Edge of Eden and think about its competition and other scents like it, all to do 2 things. Number 1, to give you guys an incredibly up-close description of the perfume and to tell you how I see it best showcased in terms of the season, temperature, time of day, who I think it's for, etc., where I've worn it, where I think it shines. Why are so many people not understanding this perfume? Take good or bad perfume out of the window. Everybody has their own connection to a scent. I'm just saying, I find that people aren't very informative with this fragrance. Like if you go to Fragrantica and look up the note pyramid, you don't need to watch a single YouTube review thus far on that fragrance, other than to see if that person loves it or hates it. Because essentially people just parrot the notes. Oh, I do see the apple. I do see the metal. Oh yeah, okay. And then, or they start kind of parroting the origins of day 3 and or their connection to day 3 and who they know and all that. But I want to be more descriptive with this review about the actual perfume, because I want you guys to be able to smell it through the screen. And I also want to give you some tools on how to approach this scent, because I do think there is a such thing as not being ready for a perfume. So there's been times in my past where I've worn a scent, and because I just didn't understand it, I said, oh, I don't like it. And we've gone through this before with notes. Oh, I don't like rose oud. Oh, well, no, I do like rose oud. I just don't like how people have done rose and oud. And once I found my fragrance, I realized it had nothing to do with the notes. Similarly, we can mentally and from a sensory standpoint not be equipped to handle certain scent profiles. And so right away, if we don't identify with it, we don't have a connection to it. I don't think connections to fragrances are solely all about preference. Why? Because we're human beings and preferences change. So you can grow into a fragrance, you can also grow out of a fragrance. And you can also have no connection with a fragrance, but be equipped in such a way where it sparks a curiosity to then investigate a fragrance. And some fragrances you treat very much like that, where it's like an art gallery. You behold the fragrance and don't think of it more as, well, how is this scent going to make me smell good out of the shower? Or which place do I need to go to wear this? We bounce between our practical and artistic side of how we enjoy perfumery. And the later we get into our fragrance journey, we start to have an artistic appreciation for perfumery, not just a practical appreciation for perfumery. And as that happens, it takes self-awareness, it takes investigation, and it also takes education, being educated on how to enjoy your fragrance. Some people may say, you know what, it's not that deep. And that's because it's not that deep for you, and you have decided to place your comfort in a very limited aspect of perfumery. And you're not lesser for that. You're not on a lower level than others for that. It's your preference. It has nothing to do with your skill or how much of a collector you are, or how good you are. Nothing. It's a preference. How far you want to go into perfumery is your choice. But nonetheless, I want to provide a great review of this fragrance, but I also want to segue it into a family of fragrances, mainly the metallics and the various facets of the metallics that you can explore and get into to see the difference, the quality jump from lesser perfumes into luxury perfumes as it relates to metallics. Because if your only entry point is something along the lines of Invictus, you have a world of exploring to do that I'm going to be the stepping stone for you and get you into. So Edge of Eden, very grateful for it in that it sparked an idea in my head to bring you guys tons of value. So not only will I be reviewing that perfume, but I will also be putting you guys on game to some other scents within that review, because it'll be helpful for you to navigate this particular category of fragrance. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed all that hoopla that I just spewed out. I just thought, I like sharing my documentation, sharing where I'm at with fragrance right now. And even though I don't have the concept ready to go into the review yet, I will by next week, and wanted you guys to know why and things that have been going on in my mind so far. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. Talk to me. I do talk back. I love y'all. We're building the tribe up. We're creating the experience we want out of fragrance. And I hope you guys that are new to the channel just know that I am living out my journey so that you can live out yours. I'm going to say it again. My journey should look like my journey. But I hope the tools and testimony of my journey give you some, equip you in such a way where your journey can look like your journey. There we go. All right. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Love y'all. Stay blessed. And until next time, peace.